Today, we'll be going through a Ketra demonstration. Light really is so much more than what you see. It's a feeling. And over the course of the next few minutes, you're gonna see this room completely transform just through the power of dynamic light and automated shading. We're gonna proceed through this experience in 5 distinct chapters, starting with quality of dimming, natural light, layers of light, color and vibrancy, natural light's byproduct, and finally, seamlessly bringing the outdoors in. So right now in this room, we're running our natural show with Ketra, which means that based on the time of day, we're actually mimicking the color, temperature, and the intensity of the sun outside at this time of day. But to get started, I'm gonna lower the shades. I'm gonna eliminate a little bit of the exterior light that's coming into the space, and we're still in that very energetic, cool light for this time of day. Our eyes anticipate to see bright, energetic light in the afternoon. But as the shades come all the way down to the floor, it draws our eyes a little bit more to the interior light. And what I'd kind of like to do to get started is just warm this light up a bit. Typically, you have to pick a color of light with LEDs. That's usually about 3000 Kelvin color temperature. So I'm gonna warm that up now to 3000. And it becomes cozier in here, it becomes a little more relaxing. But if we opened these shades up and let the natural light back in, this cozy feeling would start to become a little too warm and a little too distracting for this time of day. And that's the tricky thing about having to pick a color of light, is that it can feel good at certain times, but then it will feel off at other times. And we really need a light that can live with us, with flexible color temperature to meet the task at hand and the activity that we're doing in a space. So here we are at 3000 Kelvin color temperature, 100% intensity. I want to create a little bit more of an ambiance in the room, and I want to show you how typical LEDs dim. So I'm going to take this warm white and dim it down to 20%. And as I do, the room becomes a little bit more washed out. It becomes a little bit gray, and it's a departure from the kind of experience that we expect to see with a natural light source. When we dim an incandescent light, when we get to sit by firelight, it's warm, it has this glow. It feels a little bit more like this. If I add a touch of warmth to the room, suddenly we return back to that human experience of dimming that we've experienced for millions of years by firelight, by the light of the moon, by the light of the sun. So I'm gonna step that back one more time into that flat gray dimming, just so we can see that once again, and then into that very comfortable kind of light that we expect to see. And right now in the space, we're at about 15% intensity. And what I want to gradually do is walk us down to a lower level of light. And I'm going to do that in steps just so our eyes can adjust. And what I'm going to gradually take us into is all the way down to a candlelight level. And if you were in this room with us right now, after a few moments, your pupils would dilate, these very intelligent organs that we have in our face, and this would actually be quite a bit of light. We are at 0.1% intensity, and this is the color of embers in a fire. But one of those first steps down that I took, I'm gonna bring it back up to that, was at about 10% intensity. This is usually the floor that we can dim to with traditional dimming. But if we think about a light that can truly live with you all through the night, where you can just get a glass of water, I'm gonna take it back to that color of embers in a fire, that very low intensity of light. This can truly be an experience from day into night without disrupting your sleep. So now I'd like to take you through a 40-second condensed version of a day in the life so you can feel what it would be like to live under the Ketra Natural Show all day. So I'm going to take us into the middle of the night first. And what we'll start to experience very gradually is that soft morning sunrise. This is when we're having breakfast and coffee and the light's starting to cool off, become a little more energetic. We're reaching almost that high noon time of day, where you might be in and out of meetings, you're very focused, you might even be reading a book on the couch. Wherever you are in your home, it's bright and it's crisp and it's cool. And now we start to feel those warm afternoon tones roll in as we gradually approach golden hour time of day, that magical moment. We might have just had dinner with our family, maybe we're curling up on the couch reading a book, and gradually we're getting more and more ready to call it a night until we just need candlelight glow to get a glass of water. What I'd love to show you are the layers of light in this room. If you look behind me right now, everything's at the same color and the same intensity, but if we change the color temperature and we fine-tune the intensity, we can actually create something that has much more of an ambiance. So there's 3 layers of light. The first is our ambient light. This is giving us a pillow of light behind me, the decorative fixture, the uplight in the corner. Secondly, we have our task light. This is where we pop that focused light onto the task location, which is the coffee table in the living room. And then finally, we have our accent light, and this is where we start to incorporate the beautiful piece of art on the wall, and suddenly the room becomes more three-dimensional. It comes to life with light. We're highlighting the walls, we're highlighting materiality and beauty, and it is truly a room that's more visually interesting, that we actually want to spend time in. We've kind of adjusted to seeing this space for a moment. What I want to do is step us back for a moment to the warm, dim light where we started, where everything's a little bit flatter. We start to lose that feeling and that interest. And now I'll go all the way back to the beginning, if you remember, that static dim light that we get from typical LEDs, and just how much emotion we can create when we start to thoughtfully integrate color, temperature, and intensity to tell a story in a space. To build on everything we've experienced, I want to show you how we can use light to tell a story with the artifacts and art in our home that we love. Right now I'm in a typical white light on this painting, but I want to show you something a little bit theatrical. A byproduct of creating sunlight is that we have this master control over the colors that white light is composed of. These are really just the colors of the rainbow. So you can imagine shining a light through a prism and you see that full spectrum of color. This gives us the ability to create different moods and really invite luxury into our spaces. So what I want to show you first on this painting is I'm going to step into a bit of a fuchsia light, and this piece is going to completely transform. There's parts that will almost flatten and disappear. So I'm going to step into that now. And we get this very different experience, right? Everything becomes kind of cohesive. But watch what happens when I step into blue. There's parts of this painting that become almost black. It's dramatic. It feels almost like it's moving off the wall. And this is obviously not how we would illuminate art on the day-to-day, but what this means is that the color and the quality of light that's shining on objects completely impacts our experience of it, and it can tell a story. So now, let's take this back into white light. Right now I'm in 3000 Kelvin color temperature, a typical warm white light. And the white LEDs are creating a lot of the white light mixture. But what I want to show you is something that we call vibrancy. So this is the standard white. And when I step into the higher vibrancy, you're going to notice that the pinks and the greens really jump out. And this is the higher vibrancy. It punches it off the wall. It creates this contrast. I'll take it back again to the standard white, and then again into that higher vibrancy. And this is something that we can use to tell a story with the art and the pieces in our home that we love. We can draw out materiality. We can create focal points and moments just by tuning the light. And very interestingly, the color temperature of light isn't changing. It's that recipe that's changing. So it's something that we can really dial in to tell a story. So here we are. We're back in that warm 3000 Kelvin color temperature light where we started. So what I like to do is bring the shades up, draw the natural light back into the space. And as I do, we're gonna start to feel that cooler, more energetic afternoon light filtering into the room. But I'm staying at that warmer 3000 Kelvin color temperature light that we usually have to choose. And what we start to feel is this disconnect between what's happening outside and what's happening inside of this space. And so with the click of a button, I'm going to dissolve the boundary between interior and exterior, stepping into that Ketra natural show. So I'm going to do that now. And as I do, the room cools off, becomes brighter and lighter. There's pockets in the room where we feel all of the shadows dissolve, and we feel this continuation of that seamless exterior light into the space. This is truly the right type of light at the right time of day, and this is what we crave as human beings. I'm also going to turn the lights off. It's kind of surprising how much the light is doing in this room. We've layered it very thoughtfully, and we're matching sunlight. But watch what happens when I turn the room off. It feels kind of empty in here. We're very aware that the lights are off, and the windows become the most important part of the room because that's where the light is coming from. But having a light that can truly live with you, that mimics the light outside, can create a feeling more like this, where it's continuous and it's comfortable all day.